Monday, September 11th, 2017, regular session, Anamosa City Council. It's at City Hall Council Chambers. 1.0 roll call.
Rich.
Yes. Here. Excuse me.
Bill.
Here.
John.
Here.
Rod.
Here.
Cody.
Here.
Betty. Here.
2.0 motion to approve the minutes from the following meeting, August 28th, 2017, regular council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
First by Rod, second by Bill. All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Carried. 3.0 public hearings, none. 4.0 presentations. 4.1 Mallory Marlatt, Anamosa Byway Art Committee update on artist selection for project and scale model.
Evening. Thank you for having me. I have just a little one sheet that basically says everything I'm going to say to you, but that way you don't have to write a
Mallory,
bunch of notes.
you give your name, address,
Yes.
and who you
Sorry.
represent, please.
My name is Mallory Marlatt. I am the Grantwood Scenic Byway Coordinator, and I work for the Northeast Iowa RC&D, Resource Conservation and Development. And I'm here to present to you Anamosa's Byway Public Art Project and answer any questions you have about it. So the sheet that I passed around to you gives a brief, basically overview of the project. And I'll just give you a really brief reminder that this is one of 15 public art projects in 15 different communities going up along scenic byways all across the state. And we are one of 3 along the Grantwood Scenic Byway. And I came and talked to you all in November of 2015 to get this project jump started. If you recall, it was a while ago. We're finally to the point where we have chosen our artist and our concept, and I've worked with a local advisory committee to do so. A few of them are here tonight. And our artist is Kara Briggs Farmer. She is from the Marion, Iowa area. She actually did the Art in the Alley project, if anyone is familiar. If you're not, it's really neat. Check it out. But you'll see in front of you a picture on your sheet of the model that we actually have here in person. So this is a small version of what the piece will be.
Could you turn
Yes.
the other way? The camera's right behind you. Thank you, Mallory.
Yes. I can be Vanna today. So it's really fun to see in person, so we wanted to make sure you could see it and you can touch it if you want to. So this will be much larger when it is complete, and this is just a conceptual model at this point. There will be some slight changes, and we're still meeting with the artist as a committee to finalize, so there may be some other fun little things inside. But basically we're at the point now where we're finishing up raising funds for the project. So you can see kind of a breakdown on the sheet that I handed you. Right now we have $7,000 secured, both from local contributions and from the Byways of Iowa Foundation and the Iowa Department of Cultural Affairs. And we are looking at about a $12,000 project to hire Kara to actually make this a reality for us. So we as a committee are working on that right now, but we wanted to make sure and present this to you so you could see what it looks like, and I can answer any questions you have about it, or if you want more detail, I'm happy to give you that too.
So it's going to be 18 feet high.
That's our original proposal, although I think we'll need to have discussions with the city, obviously, to see if that's going to work in that space. That's a very, very tall piece of art.
Yes.
So my guess is we probably would scale it down a bit, but part of the purpose of this project is to have a really large impact on that space, so it would still be large, I think, but we're going to sit down with the artist in October to really finalize what the specs are for the project. So happy to take any suggestions or thoughts on height especially.
Is there any way or any thought given to keeping people from climbing on it?
That has come up a few times. I think actually the artist is very cognizant of that possibility, and We've already talked to her about obviously making sure that the surfaces are smooth and not sharp. But I think she would do everything she could to make sure that it would be very difficult to do so that there weren't pieces close enough to the ground to actually climb on it. But that has come up a few times, and I think we would sit down with the artist, and I would invite any of you that would like to come and help with that discussion, because we don't want something to be unsafe, of course. So. Any other questions for me, or do you want any other information?
Another question,
Yes.
would it be in raw form like it is now? I mean, a steel color or no color to it, or?
Right.
I guess I'm just being the devil advocate, trying to, will it actually look like this? Same color scheme, I guess, is what I'm going for.
We actually did talk to the artist a little bit. Some of the work that she's done in the past, and maybe I'll pass this around so you can take a look, has involved color. I'll just pass it around that way. So we actually talked to her about whether or not she could incorporate it in the way she has in the past, and it's been kind of a plexiglass color. We talked about actually having that placed within the window shape, or we did talk about whether or not we would have a finished or painted look on it instead of the raw steel. So that hasn't really been decided. So when we go to meet in October, I'd love for any of you that would like to come, I know a few of you already can, to come and give input on that, because that is an option, so that it doesn't have to be raw material.
I like the raw material.
Yeah, you know, a lot of us did too. It's sort of up in the
Well,
air.
and I'm gonna say this because the people might not know what we're talking about, but they say that all the recycled bike parts will come from the area, and it not only saves on material, it encourages the local lore about this piece to grow. So it's kind of cool to have, like, is that the handlebar off your cousin's 78 shovel head? Maybe it is, you know. I like that part about this. So if that's the kind of the theme you're gonna go with.
I'm glad you brought that up, because she actually got these pieces for this model from the National Motorcycle Museum to give you an idea. But this is actually supposed to be the Wapsipinicon River, which we probably have some information next to it to actually interpret that for you, and kind of an agricultural farmscape and birds, so, and sunlight. But like I said, we talked about kind of incorporating some other little things in there as well. But she feels very strongly about using local material for the entire thing to really bring it home to Anamosa. And yes, the back of your sheet does kind of show you how she came up with her design and why, if you're curious.
Will it be treated with anything to maybe slow down the rust portion of that? Because with that material, it's gonna start rusting probably fairly fast.
Definitely, and I can't remember what she actually said it would be. I don't know if any of you can remember. But she's worked with this steel material a lot before, and there's a pretty inexpensive treatment that can be done just once a year to it pretty easily to keep it from, you know, needing any major maintenance. Whole idea was to keep it very low maintenance for the city's sake, of course. And I will get back to you on what that material is. I just can't remember off the top of my head what she called it.
It's probably gonna be mostly stainless steel and chromed pieces,
I think so.
which I prefer, because if you paint it, then the
Yeah.
city is gonna have to hire somebody to,
Kind of takes away from the ambience. of it.
yeah.
Yep. Yes, paint would definitely add to the maintenance of it, so probably would avoid that if we could.
How soon do you anticipate actually being in place?
A lot of it depends on when we can raise the rest of the funds that we need. But as soon as we're able to contract the artist, I think that within 6 months it would be completed. I think ideally we'd love to be able to have kind of a grand opening during one of the events happening in town, whether it be Pumpkin Fest maybe next year. But it's all up in the air just based on funds. So we can't really get her started until we have it all in place. But I feel confident that that will be fairly soon, but it definitely won't be done this year. It would be in 2018 at some point. Any other questions for me? I don't want to take too much of your time.
Where will you get the rest of the money? Have any idea, grants or what's need to be raised yet?
Yep. So we have 7,000 and we need about 12. I think that it's my intention to approach the Jones County Community Foundation. We have a proposal into the Anamosa Community Foundation as far as grants go, but any local contributions would of course be welcomed. But I'm looking into some other corporate sponsorship opportunities as well. But any thoughts about that, I would definitely welcome. But we're on our way, for sure.
Good.
Any more questions? Thank you, Mallory.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Oh, proclamations, none. Council action items, 5.0 community betterment. Whoa, okay.
Sorry, I missed it.
6.1, discussion possible action on professional services agreement with Callahan Municipal Consultants LLC for administrator search services. You want?
Good evening. I couldn't help but to think on the way in here tonight, it was about 12 years ago, almost to the month, that a gentleman named Mayor John Hatcher called me and said, we've asked our city administrator to leave, and he will be leaving, and we need to hire a new city administrator. Would you come over and do the search for us? And I said, sure, John, I'll come over and talk to you about doing the search, but I said, I got another idea for you, too. I said, I talked to the people at IPERS, and I'd like to get back into city government for a span of 4 or 5 years to build up my IPERS base. I said, if you're interested, I might want the job.
Are you telling us something?
What's that?
Are you telling us something?
No, I'm not. Quite the
Are
opposite.
you teasing us?
My blood pressure is low, my cholesterol is good, everything is good, so I don't think I'm going to go back into this. Which I'm here tonight because I love what I do now. I absolutely love working with a lot of different cities and doing a search process. So that's why you've asked me here tonight, so that's what we'll talk about. The yellow sheet is kind of an outline of what I'm going to go over with you. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to be here. I appreciate that. Every time the council calls me and asks me to do this, I'm very appreciative of it. And I've been in city government for a long time, 43 years. I decided to make a career of it when I was in college, and from Loras College I went to University of Iowa, and my first job right out of graduate school was Fort Madison. And as you well know, I finished my career here in Anamosa. And as I tell a lot of councils when I'm doing my introduction, what do those two towns have in common? Both have maximum security penitentiaries, I said. But I'm not sure how it turned out, and I had a good experience in both communities. But the process of finding a city administrator, I tell people, is almost like a courting process and marriage. The key thing is to find the person who's the right fit for this community at this point in your history. And there's no two city administrators alike, and there's no two cities alike. So the key of this whole process is for you to get to know them, and they to get to know you, so that both parties can decide, is this a good fit for both parties? So the reason we kind of go through a process like this is to make sure we find someone who's a good fit for this community. The first thing I like to do is I like to meet one-on-one with all of you and just find out where you're coming from, what you're looking for in your next city administrator. I also want to meet with your department heads, because those people will work with that individual on a daily basis. And so I always tell city councils and city administrators there's 3 groups of people an administrator has to get along with and have a good working relationship. Obviously all of you, You're the boss. You've been elected to make the decisions. So you got to have a good working relationship with you folks. But they have to have a good working relationship with the department heads as well. And lastly, they have to have a good working relationship with the public, because the public pays the bill. So I always thought everybody who walked through that door is my boss. And everybody who walked through that door could be my boss someday and could be sitting at these tables. So you've got to take that approach. You got to try and have a good working relationship with all three of those groups of people. The first thing I like to do after I've talked to all of you individually is write a position profile. And as you saw in my proposal, I consider that a big part of the process. I'll give you an example of one. I'll pass this around. This is one I did for West Branch. And I do this profile for two reasons. One is I want the candidate to look at the job and look at the community and get excited about this opportunity and obviously, hopefully apply. But I also want them to take it home and I want them to show it to their spouse, because I want the spouse to be happy as well and be on board with that individual, their spouse, applying for this job. Because I've learned over the years it's critical that it's a two-party decision at the family level, and so it's important that the spouse also kind of be involved in this and also be see something like this that will spark their interest and enthusiasm. Once we develop the position profile, then we will obviously start advertising, promoting the position. I like to target individuals who I think would be a good match for the community. Being in this for 43 years, I know a lot of people. I know most city administrators in the state of Iowa. And so I will start targeting people I think might be a good match. Send them an email. I'll send them that profile. Might make some phone calls to people. Then once we've, had the advertisements, start taking applications, then the first thing we have to do is screen them and look them over and see how closely they match up what you told me you're looking for. Because one of the things we put in there is we talk about what type of person we're looking for, what kind of background, what kind of experience. And then once we do that, I bring all the resumes to you. In fact, I'm doing this tomorrow in Fairfield. We have like 22 applicants in Fairfield. I'm taking them all to the city council tomorrow, and they will all sit down and read the resumes, read the cover letters, and then they will rank them for me. What I will say to them, do it very simply, 1, 2, or 3. With 1 being a top candidate, I really want to see this person, I really want to interview him. With 2 being kind of a marginal candidate, maybe I might want to talk to him. And then 3, someone that doesn't meet the criteria that we've laid out in the position profile. So once we've done that, I do a total composite score on all the candidates. That is what we use then to determine who becomes a semifinalist, who goes to the next step, which we then like to try and do a Skype interview if possible. Been doing Skype interviews for about 3 years now, and they get to see you, you get to see them, and we ask a series of questions that all the candidates have to answer. Takes about 30 minutes, and so we'll do them all in one evening. After the Skype interviews, I will turn to you again and say, okay, rank these candidates from 1 to 6 or 1 to 7 or how many we interview, and then after you've ranked them, that will be the basis for who's going to go to the next level, who's going to be the 4 finalists, or 3 finalists, depending on what we come up with. And then we invite those folks to the community. And I'm a firm believer that we have to make sure that they feel good about the experience of being interviewed, about seeing the community. So we like to do a tour of the community. We like for the department heads to meet the candidates. I even ask the department heads to rank them, too, as they see it, just to see where they're coming from. But ultimately, it's your decision as a council. You will make the final decision. I won't make it. They won't make it. You will make the final decision as who's selected as city administrator. And so you'll get to see them on Friday, possibly, when they come to town. You'll get to see them Saturday morning. I kind of set up a series of interviews where I kind of break you into teams, and then the candidates will rotate from room to room so that you get to meet them on a more informal basis, like 1 or 2 of you are sitting across the table from them. And then lastly, you will all come together as a council and interview them one by one. And I have a number of things that I have them do so that you get a well-rounded picture of them. You would have seen their resume, their cover letter. You would have seen them in a Skype interview. You would have seen them Friday night. You would have seen them Saturday morning as they talk to you kind of one-on-one. And then you would have seen how they interact with you in a council meeting on Saturday afternoon. So We will also do background checks, reference calls on all the candidates, so that if there's any issues in terms of credit, criminal background, I like to work with the police chief on criminal background checks. I also then will call all the references. And a lot of times I'll know people besides the references that they provide, so I might call some names of folks that maybe they haven't even provided me. So we'll do all that. You'll get that in the form of a report. And then at the end of the day, on that Saturday when we interview them, you will be asked then to come together as a council. Hopefully, we reach a consensus that this is the candidate that you want to hire. And then after we do that, then we'll sit down and talk about what the terms and conditions of employment are. And I like to take a look at the employment agreement you have in place now that you have with Al, and we'll see if it needs to be modified or tweaked in any way. And then we'll use that as our model. And once you tell me who the candidate you want will be, then I call that candidate and say, you're the top candidate, here's what we are going to offer you in the way of salary and benefits. I will have had a discussion with them before the interview, so I'm going to know where they're coming from on salary and benefits. So hopefully that's a smooth process. And in the end then, once that candidate has accepted the position, it'll come back to the council for final approval and probably a resolution to approve the employment agreement. We like to do a national search, and that way we do that as we go on a website called the International City Management Association, or the ICMA. Anyone that's really looking for a job in this field is probably a member of the ICMA and has access to this website. We'll also go on the League of Iowa Cities, or occasionally I'll see some communities go on league websites in the area, like Minnesota, Missouri, Wisconsin, that sort of thing. Also, we'll want to be on the IAMU website. I'm sure we're still members of the IAMU, correct? Okay, so that's a free opportunity, as well as the league. And then the other thing is, Al has done a good job of putting the word out already that the position's open. He's a member of what's called the Grapevine. So the word is already out. I've actually had a couple calls from people asking me about the position. So we'll do those kind of things. I have a gentleman who I work with named Brent Hinson, who put it out on LinkedIn. And so word will get out that the position is open and how to apply. Some of the other things that I do, if you want me to, and that is the process that I've laid out. There are some cities that say, you know, we can do some of this on our own. Guttenberg's a good example. When I did this in Guttenberg, they did the first 5 or 6 steps on their own, and then I took it from there. So I'm certainly open to do that. I've never been asked to do this, but I'm certainly open to it, and that is if you want me to travel to the communities of your finalists and just, you know, get a feel for what the community looks like, what I hear about the candidate. Most of the time, by the time we do our background checks and reference calls, we have a pretty good feel for who the candidate is and what they'd be like. The other thing I can do is if you want assistance on your 6 months performance review, my proposal has a cost on doing that if you want. And the other thing I do for all the cities I work with is once the person is hired, I just don't walk away. I'm available for phone calls. On a regular basis, I get calls from people I've helped place in other cities asking me, you know, for advice and how they would handle things. So I'm more than happy to do that. It's entirely up to them, though. I have no contact with them if that's what they want, but if they want me to talk to them every once in a while, we do that as well. So, and the other thing I do is this is an opportune time to look at things like your job description and your ordinance. So if there's any need to make any changes or adjustment, now is the time to do that. So I would urge you at a future agenda to put the job description on your agenda and your ordinance as well. So this process heavily involves the council. I'm not a believer in assigning this to a committee of the council or anything like that. I think the entire council needs to be involved with it. If you hire me and you want me to do this, I'd like to start the process 2 weeks from tonight with a work session, either before your regular meeting or after your regular meeting, whatever works for you. And I'll have an agenda. In fact, all the meetings I do, I will have an agenda for you. I will give it to Tammy, and it'll be, you'll get a memo ahead of time. And so I'd like to have that initial work session in a couple of weeks if you want me to help you. And then I'd like to schedule those individual interviews with you as well. And we'll talk about that as a little later. You'll be very much involved, as I said, on the screening of the applications, because in the end, the ranking that you individually assign will give me a composite score. And so you'll make the selection of who goes to be a semifinalist, and then you'll also make the decision on who's a finalist. So I will not tell you who to pick. I will not tell you who to hire. That's your job. That's what you were elected for. My job is to make sure you don't make a mistake. That's my job, that you don't hire someone that is, not what they present themselves to be, or someone who I think would just not be a good fit for the community. But ultimately, I will not come in here and demand that you hire a certain candidate. I will share with you what I know about those candidates. Many times I've known some of these folks for a long period of time, but ultimately, in the end, you will make the final decision as to who is hired for this position. So, the other thing I'll do is provide you the questions ahead of time for the Skype interview and then the regular interview. You'll look through those questions and you'll ask as many as you want. You'll probably have more than enough questions to ask. You won't probably be able to ask them all. If you want to add questions, I'm certainly willing to do that. However, we've got to be very careful that you don't do what I call ask the $50,000 question. And the reason I say that is when I left my position in Makokata in 1993, they did not hire a search firm, they did it on their own. And the mayor asked the city, one of the candidates, what I call the $50,000 question. He's deceased now, so he can't defend himself, but supposedly in the interview process, he turned to the one female candidate and said, "Do you really think a woman could do this job?" That little question ultimately cost the city $50,000. Or at least their insurance company, I'm not sure which. So my other thing in my process is to make sure that you don't ask a question that's going to get you or the city in trouble. So that's one of the things we will be doing. The other thing is you will be getting regular updates from me. What's going on, how many candidates we got, and you'll also get packets of information ahead of time. On the second page of the little handout there, you can see all of the cities that I've done searches in. Actually, one of these searches not too long ago involved Rod's sister. Rod has a sister who's been in city government for a long time, Shelley, and she was selected as a finalist in Central City, and she got the job in Central City. So, so we have a lot of cities we've done this in, ranging from a town of only 900 people out in western Iowa, Trainer, to the largest city I've ever done this in is Fort Madison, a little over $11,000. So. Final thing I will say to you is I've kind of developed over the years kind of a network of city administrators, city managers that I know, and so, and not only here in Iowa, but also in adjacent states and candidates for other positions that I've been involved with. So I've been kind of on all sides of this issue. I've been a candidate for city administrative positions over the years. I have been in your position. I've been on boards where we were selecting executive director type position. So I've been in your seat, and I've done the consulting thing. My experience is almost 50-50. About half of my time I've been a city administrator, and the other half of the time I've been a consultant. So I've seen this process from all sides. And so I tell people, there's two things I will tell you. I will not hide anything that I learn about a candidate from you. I will not sugarcoat, the description of the candidates. But I will do the same thing with the candidates. I will tell them just as I see it. I will not, make this town bigger and better than it is. Like every town, we've got a lot of great things going for us. But like a lot of towns, we also have issues we're dealing with. I will tell them everything, the good and the issues, so that they don't come in here in 6 months from now saying, "Hey, Callahan, I wish you would have told me that. I'd have never taken this job." That's what I don't want to hear. What I want is every side to hear all of it, so that they can make an intelligent decision, but you can make an intelligent decision as well. So, and I am open to modifications on this process. Every time I do it, it gets tweaked a little bit. West Branch is a good example. We actually, in the end, only had 2 people that were finalists, and so when it came to the day of the interviews, they didn't want to break into teams, so the council stayed together. So I will modify this process to fit whatever you want to do and whatever you feel comfortable with. So anytime we're going through this, don't hesitate to say, "Well, have you ever thought about doing it this way?" because I do make modifications. The other thing is, I will keep you updated and send you regular reports. I like to just send them right directly to your emails, so you can see them right away. You're always welcome to call me. It's not unusual for council members to call me and say, how's it going, or what do you know about this candidate? So, yeah. Most of you know where to find me, so Rod knows he can walk down the street and find me real easy. So don't hesitate to ever ask me anything about the process or the candidates. So with that, I will open up to any questions you have on the search process.
I noticed that kind of the timeline,
Mhm.
give or take, is the first of the year.
Mhm.
And I was trying to figure out in your package deal, your consulting fee from beginning to end.
Mhm.
Does that include advising and directing and helping through the process between when Al's finished and the new guy starts?
The search process from
I mean,
beginning
not
to end
just-
is on page 8 in terms of the fee.
That's the next thing on the agenda.
Yeah.
That's the second item.
Right, but I'm just saying in that time frame, in the interim there, does that include other, like,
The fee that I give you on page 8 of the proposal does not include administrative services,
okay,
like
that was-
meeting with department heads or coming to all of your council meetings or whatever it is you want me to do.
Okay.
That's a separate, I like to do that as a separate contract. I've done that a couple times. I did that in Tipton, and we just did a separate contract.
I knew you did that too.
Yeah, that's right, you did know that. So, but the actual search process is on page 8 of the long proposal. That kind of defines for you from beginning to end all the steps in the process. And then I assign a fee to each of the steps, because every once in a while I have a council that says, well, we'll do these steps, and we want you to do the balance of it. So I'll do it any way you want me to. This fee is normally in that 12 to 13,000 range. I have a reduced fee because I have no travel time. It takes me 5 minutes to get here. So I've scaled it back to take into consideration that I have little or no travel time. So one of the advantages of my living here is I don't have to drive a long distance to get to your meetings.
So then back to where my train of thought's
Yeah.
going, is that January 1st date kind of what you're thinking is probably a good target date?
That's a good target date.
Okay.
It'll all depend on if you agree with my timetable. Because
Uh-huh.
at this point, that timetable is just a proposal.
Right.
And if we have to change it, then it might go out further. The other thing that will come into play is whether or not the person has to give much notice to the current employer. For
Right.
example, when I came here in 2006, I had to give notice to an employer that I had. And when I came to, when I left here, I had to give you 60-day notice. So some people have 60, some people have 90, other people have 2 weeks. It just depends on what kind of an employment agreement they have. So if they have to give a 60 or 90-day notice, we're probably looking at,
March, April.
could be. Just
Okay.
depending who you pick and what kind of notice they have to give. I'm assuming your contract, Al, probably has 60-day notice like mine? Okay, 45. So just have to wait and see.
Okay, that helps a lot.
Okay.
How confident are you in the first go-round that we're gonna get qualified candidates? Because reading everything you're talking
Yeah.
about, there's a lot of openings and
Yes.
maybe not so many qualified candidates for some of those openings, so.
Every time I do this search, I fear that we'll not get a good pool of candidates. Now, I had that same fear with Fairfield, but I have 23 applications for Fairfield right now, and about 11 or 12 of them are excellent candidates. And so, but there again, it's all going to depend on what salary range you assign. Like that movie with Tom Cruise, Show Me the Money, because candidates will be motivated by what kind of salary range you advertise. So if it's a much lower end, then you're going to get the people that are just out of school or limited amount of experience. If you have a wider range with a higher limit on it, then you're going to get people that have some genuinely good experience. So it's hard to predict. I will tell you this much. When I was in city government, just starting out in the 80s and 70s, if we saw 5 or 6 city administrator openings a year, we were absolutely thrilled to have that many opportunities to move up. Well, you saw my list. And well, now the list for 17, what was it, 24 on that list? Well, now you can add 2 more. We can add Anamosa and we can add Mason City. Mason City just was added to the list here a week or so ago because that gentleman's moving out of state. So there is just an unbelievable number of openings here in Iowa the last couple of years, more than I've ever seen in my entire 43 years. And so it's kind of a situation where most of the really well-qualified candidates that were looking for jobs in Iowa candidates have found them, you know. And so most of my candidates I'm looking at in Fairfield are from out of state. You know, I've got a few from in-state. One of the things I like to see is someone who's been here before, and 2 of my best candidates in Fairfield have been city administrators that left Iowa and went to Illinois. And I don't know if you know much about Illinois government and Illinois politics, but when I mentor young city administrators, I tell them, don't go to Illinois. Stay in Iowa. Don't go over the river. So,
They wised up.
but most of my candidates in Fairfield are from out of state. So, and I would not be surprised if that's the situation here. But you never know, because the other thing I like to look for is that connection to Iowa or connection to the area. So that kind of keeps them here, you know. Any other questions that I can answer? Okay, let's talk a little bit about then what type of assistance you would need from me after Al officially retires, October 6th, correct?
Correct.
You're looking at your last day. I can provide some assistance on kind of a limited part-time thing. I'm not out looking for more work. I've actually got enough work to keep me booked into 2018. So it's not one of these things where I could be here every day, but I can be available for council meetings when I don't have other city council meetings. And I can also be available for department head meetings if that's what you want. Once Al retires, we'll probably I might be at a council meeting, we'll just put it on agenda, and you kind of tell me what you want me to do. And if there's certain meetings with, say, consultants or engineers or bonding folks, I'm more than happy to sit on those meetings. But I want to emphasize the importance. I cannot be your interim city administrator. Someone on your payroll has to be your interim city administrator. I can't be that. I can be your consultant, but I can't make any decisions. I can't make a decision for a department head. I can tell a department head what I would do if I was them, but I can't make the decision for them, and I can't make the decision for anyone else. All I can tell you is, that's what I would do, and here's how I would handle it. And then whether or not they take that advice, that's entirely up to them. But I'm more than happy to do that by phone, by being here at meetings or in person, whatever you want. And I put in there that I don't know how many times you're going to call me, so I just put in there, you know, my rate is. I don't have any mileage, so there's no mileage or expenses. It's just strictly whatever times you call me, I'll just track my time. I'll send you an invoice for my time. And I put a number in there pledging that if it went above a certain number, that I'd have to come back to you and get your approval. I put 5,000 in there, but if you want to put 1,000 in there, I don't care. Whatever you want. You name the number, whatever you feel comfortable with. I think in Tipton's case, I think I put 3,000 or 4,000, but they had an interim city administrator there, but he was on a long vacation. And because he was on a long vacation, they needed an interim for the interim. Any other questions that I can answer on the administrative services? Okay, well, I'll stick around here, and you can decide if you want to do both, or if you want to just do the one, that's fine. It's entirely up to you. Or if you want to table it and talk about it at the next meeting, that's fine with me as well. Okay.
And then
Thanks.
we have I know I have your contact information,
Mhm.
but if we had questions, we can just email you.
Yeah, send me an email, call me, yeah. I talk a lot faster than I can type, so a lot of times.
That's fine.
I like to talk on the phone. I still am doing this kind of typing. I never learned how to use all those fingers. Al probably can use all those fingers and type. No, you're kind of doing it my way too.
Are you saying you
I'm
don't
old
do
school.
this with your
Yeah,
phone?
I can't type like Tammy.
You
Because
skip-
Tammy,
you
although
skip
Tammy, I'm
typing
much better than I used to be when I was here. Okay. All right, well, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Pat.
Make a motion, we accept Callahan Municipal Consultants Agreement for professional services for hiring a city administrator.
Second.
First by Bill, second by Rich. Any further discussion?
I do not particularly want to do any of those steps as a council,
I don't think any of us are qualified either to do some of the steps.
just to get that out of the way.
That, I think that's why we've
Ask him to do this.
asked Pat to do this. Any further discussion?
So
Oh.
in moving forward and doing this, what would Adrian's role in all this play? When we're sitting here having no administrator and having,
That would be in your next item of discussion.
oh, okay, that's fine. I wasn't sure if that would include him. Never mind.
Two separate contracts, you can talk about those.
Okay.
All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Opposed? Carried. 6.2, discussion and possible action on professional services agreement with Callahan Municipal Consultants LLC for administrative services and plan for action during the interim period of the administrator search.
Move to approve Callahan Municipal Consultants for professional services for interim guidance during the phase between Al's retirement and hiring our new administrator.
Second.
First by Bill, second by John.
I kinda want a definition on that.
Well, do you wanna set, like Pat talked about, not to exceed 5,000 and then,
Yeah, I'm good with that number. Cause it's only as much as we ask him to do.
right,
That's over and above the,
That's correct.
mhm.
okay,
Now this one, to answer your question about Adrian, is where I would expect that the interim city administrator, person filling that position, wearing that title, would call Adrian and say, what do you think about this?
so we will have consulting from Pat, but
Yep.
we also will have an interim
If needed.
administrator,
If
right?
we had to.
If we had to. And how will we know if we have to?
That's up to us. Should be somebody that's already a city employee, somebody that knows how the city operates, can make those decisions, can coordinate department heads' meetings at City Hall, and knows when to call Pat for advice, or to do the research to find the answer to the question.
Is this something that maybe Dale could pick up some of this responsibility, being mayor?
Define the responsibility you're looking for him to pick up. Writing grants?
I don't think that we
Probably
are gonna
maybe
need to
have
write a
grant.
grant,
I
but,
mean,
Six.
I'm just saying like, what
But-
responsibilities do you have in mind?
you know, daily operation and, you know, keeping
When he's
everybody in line and
not at his other job?
Giving some direction on,
to
to
employees.
department heads if need be.
It, just normal responsibilities a mayor would assume.
I don't want to impose any of those normal responsibilities from a strong mayor form of government, though, because our particular mayor has a 40-hour-a-week job. So I anticipate that, much like when Al was in rehab from his recent surgery, that Tammy was doing a lot of the city administration with advice from Al as needed. That's who we would rely on, because she's filling that city clerk position, to make those decisions, ask the pertinent questions, and seek advice from Adrian and or Pat as needed. And if we were asked to appoint an interim city administrator, I would anticipate that my suggestion would that we do that with our city clerk, who I think is in the best position to manage the functions of City Hall at this point.
Because when Al was out, there were times that Tammy would call and we would hash things out on what needed to be done.
And I think that's the form that I would like to see the mayor fill, is to be an advisory to Tammy as she seeks advice.
Tammy, can you and Al make like a, not like a spreadsheet, or like, just kinda from now until the first of the year, what is on the plan of what's going on in the city, like, and I'm sure I could do it if I went back through all my packets and stuff, but you guys
The
might
things that
not.
are pending. you
What's
mean?
gonna be on our
The things that
plate?
are pending, and when deadlines are for things, and when startup projects, and when, do you know what I mean? For all the departments, I mean,
Yes.
we have a lot going on right now in the city, including possibly replacing, you know, like getting another police officer, and like kind of do a bullet point of the departments, maybe. Like in this department, we have these streets that are under, and this is the deadline, just so I can see a big picture. You know, I'm detailed about all that stuff. That might also help us know what kind of things we're looking at, and responsibilities for the next couple months. Would that be okay?
Totally doable.
You have a motion and a second, correct?
But, yeah, that's why there was discussion.
And can you include in that, what exactly, like, what's our thing with, do we have a retainer for the city attorney plus hourly for when you
No,
call and talk to him?
strictly hourly. And then he has-
Strictly hourly.
Yeah, and then he has a breakdown on, like, telephone calls, or if time that he puts in letters, or things like that nature.
He breaks it down on his bill, under his billable time.
Can we have some of that too?
A
I mean,
copy
so
of?
that we know how much, like if we were to have him come to some meetings as opposed to how much time spending on the phone, you know. It's just the way my brain thinks. It might come to nothing, but if I can see it laid out, that helps too.
What's his hourly charge, Al?
160 right now, I believe. 160 or 180. It's about $40, $60 below his normal rate.
Right.
But that's if you're face to face, it's a different charge if it's a
No,
phone call?
same charge.
Goes by minutes if it's a phone call instead of hour.
I can give you copies of his invoices, like for the last 6 months, to give you an idea of what's been spent on it.
Because do you usually talk to him every Tuesday after city council? Did you one time
Wednesday
say,
after council.
or Wednesday after council?
I would anticipate our bill going up a little bit, but I wouldn't anticipate it going up a lot.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Carried. 6.3, discussion and possible action on proposed amendment to the zoning regulation regarding types of wire fencing and forwarding on to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay, I'd like to start off by saying I've had a lot of contact on this. The public is really in tune, watching, and that's why I placed a moratorium on it. And as before you this evening, the proposal is to forward it to the Planning and Zoning Commission. It doesn't specifically address that it has to go back to the Planning and Zoning, but protocol pretty much dictates that it should. However, the public hearing will be before the city council. So therefore, it's proposed in two stages here. One is to forward it to the Planning and Zoning Commission to cover that base. And then that time, they will meet in the meantime, but to set a date for public hearing, but to give it a full month so that people have the opportunity to attend meetings if they want, and then also so council has the opportunity to mull it over and what have you. Therefore, the recommendation, two-part recommendation here. One is to simply forward this to the Planning and Zoning Commission, because it's a change of the code that's proposed. And then two is to go on ahead and set the date 30 days out for a public hearing on it. And that's fair to everybody. It's typical that when something of this nature comes up, to place a moratorium on it until such time action has been taken. It really clears the muddy waters, if you will, of, well, can we do this or can't we do this? No. When place a moratorium, which I have done, that says no more issuance of any fence in C1, C2 until such time the council makes a decision. And that's where it lays. But the Planning and Zoning Commission needs to be involved because of our process. And so therefore I recommend to you in 6.3, you forward it to the Planning and Zoning Commission, as is customary. And in 6.4, that you set the date for the public hearing for the first council meeting in October. That gives the public fair notice as well.
I'll make a motion, we forward this to planning and zoning to change the ordinance as recommended.
Second.
First by Bill, second by Rod.
So,
Any further discussion?
so when you're talking here, that moratorium you put on, it says regarding types of wire fencing, it's all wire fencing, chain link fencing?
Right here.
I'm reading off of here.
Okay.
And I'm asking him if it includes all types of fencing, wire fencing.
Correct.
Says barbed wire, including razor wire, concertina wire, and similar wire, and electric
Yeah.
fences shall be subject to the following
Yeah.
requirements.
And he just said all fences,
Yeah, the moratorium is all fences.
Yes,
all wire fences, so it's not just that.
right.
Right.
But we're forwarding this.
I know, but he's putting it on for all chain link fences also.
Exactly.
Correct.
So how long, so it's gonna be a month before, like if REC wanted to build that fence, it's now a month for them to do it, minimum.
While the council goes through this process, Planning and
Yes.
Zoning Commission goes through the legal process.
City government does not operate quickly when it comes to this.
But it's all fences then, even if they didn't want barbed wire, all chain link then, that's banning all for a month.
Even if you wanted to put it on your, around your house.
No, it's just
No.
C1 and C2.
C1 and
Oh.
C2 only.
Okay,
Because it's the
Residential
commercial
zone.
zones.
And we don't have any current, we didn't have any fencing permits in those areas requested at this time.
Any further discussion? Ready to vote on that one?
So nobody has came here to get a permit to put a fence up? That, there's nothing out there?
Nope.
In C1 and C2.
In C1 and C2.
Correct.
You
That's
do
what
have
we're
them
talking
in
about.
residential
Some
though.
residents.
Oh, yeah, we have fences, we've had a lot of fences this
Yeah.
year.
so the property that they bought that adjoined the house that they tore down, have they asked for a,
That one was already granted before
okay.
the,
We approved that.
Well,
before
we
the-
approved it, but had
before
they,
the hearing, even before P and Z,
okay,
or not P and Z, but
CBA.
CBA, the zoning board of adjustment. So that one's good to go. However,
They already have the wire on it. The posts were already done last week.
that one was approved.
So as administrator, you can put a moratorium on it without council approval?
Done it many times.
Well, yeah, we've never, in the 8 years I've been here, we've never had this issue, so that's why I'm asking.
All
it.
4 cities I've managed, that's been
All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Opposed?
no,
Carried. 6.4, discussion and possible action on resolution setting public hearing to amend zoning regulation to prohibit razor wire, concertina wire, and similar wire fences.
Move to set the public hearing for October 9th, 2017, 6 PM, City Council Chambers.
Second.
First by Bill, second by Rod. Any discussion? It's a roll vote.
Cody,
No.
Betty,
Yes.
Rich,
no,
Bill,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Ron.
Yes.
I'm just gonna put this out there. If we're concerned about public safety, razor wire wouldn't even be an option. Because if kids are gonna do it, they're gonna do it.
7.0 Public Safety. 7.1 Motion to approve the renewal of beer and liquor licenses, none. 7.2 Discussion possible action on third reading of ordinance amending animal protection and control ordinance to delete first bite exception.
Move to approve.
First by Bill,
Second.
second by Rod. And it's a roll vote.
Betty,
Yes.
Rich,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Rod,
Yes.
Cody.
Yes.
7.3 Discussion and possible action on first reading of ordinance amending animal protection and control ordinance to add a definition for aggressive dogs and provision prohibiting the keeping or harboring of aggressive dogs within the city.
Move to approve.
First by Bill,
Second.
second by Betty. Any discussion? And it's a roll vote also.
Rich,
yes,
Bill,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Rod,
Yes.
Cody,
Yes.
Betty.
Yes.
Possible waiver of second and third readings.
Move to waive the second and third readings.
First by Bill,
second,
second by Rich.
So is it my understanding that if this evening we waive the second and third readings for this ordinance under 7.3, it can all be incorporated and adopted at time?
It becomes legal and enforceable after both ordinances are published. And they would both be incorporated into the ordinance, which would be a week from Thursday.
And we're leaving the aggressive dog definition, up to the police department to consider with the facts they're giving if the dog is aggressive, so the liability comes back on them.
it's defined what aggressive
Yep.
dog means under,
Oh, yeah, I get that part.
okay.
We have a comment back here, Mr. Mayor.
Name and address.
Alicia Barnett, 200 East First Street. And I had a kind of question. I was reading the original ordinance, of course, regarding the aggressive dog things. And I know a lot of people tend to use aggressive and vicious interchangeably. But, you know, an aggressive dog, trust me, if you're going to go by what, you know, aggressive, just about everybody in this city owns a so-called aggressive dog. I mean, they could be the world's friendliest dogs, but they may be perceived by another person as aggressive. So, for one thing, I consider aggressive, adding the aggressive thing in there as being a, you know, as aggressive as being subjective and overly broad. And, you know, I think vicious itself covers what needs to be covered under that. I mean, I have a 13-year-old border collie. Friendliest, sweetest dog, but he will bark at anybody that walks by the house. And the gentleman who was speaking here last time, as a matter of fact, knows me, knows the dog. You know, we are out on walks together. Doesn't bother him or anything. But by the very definition, by the fact that he barks at people, or, you know, he just goes and runs and jumps on them and licks them and everything, he could be considered so-called aggressive. So I'm kind of concerned and wondering if maybe there shouldn't be some like veterinary input into this ordinance, you know, just maybe get a little consultation on this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's kinda like she said, though, some dogs will do that and they aren't vicious. That they will run out because they want petted and stuff, and that, maybe that's how the police can have the discretion there, talk whoever it was or the neighbors,
And that's,
whatever that dog shows.
I think it
kind
is
of what I was.
here in the ordinance, in assessing whether the dog was provoked.
Yeah, that's a good,
That, I mean, it's
Right.
written in there. So I'm
And
not gonna,
that's what I was meaning when I said, so the police department will gather the facts and determine if it was a provoked aggression or a playful aggression, or, you know what I mean? We have to,
Have to use a little common sense, and that's what we hire our police officers for, because if I'm walking and I've got two big mastiffs in the backyard up on the fence barking at me, okay, fine, they're where they're supposed to be, that's their property, they're just telling me, keep moving, buddy. But I've got another one that comes out with his hackles up, scratching the grass, and he hasn't crossed the curb yet. But when he does, that becomes, to me, an aggressive dog. And that's up to Sergeant McNally and the other officers to look at my story, look at the owner, look at the dog, and figure out if there's aggression there or if he's just coming out licking
Yeah.
and being playful. And there's so there's a number of things. And I think this definition is a good place to start. I mean, this may need adjusted as we go down the road, and we can do that with the resolution. We've been doing that. So, the public has asked us to deal with this.
we didn't realize there were issues with our last ordinance until there's an incident.
Issues every day, we just don't know what they are until they rear their ugly head.
correct.
Any further discussion? And this is a roll vote.
Bill,
Yes,
John,
yes,
Rod,
Yes,
Cody,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Rich.
yes.
7.4, discussion and possible action on request to hold homecoming parade on Thursday, September 28th at 6 p.m.
So moved.
second,
First by Cody, second by Bill.
somebody has been studying how to write very
I noticed that too.
That's the best handwriting I've seen in months.
And the street project will be done?
It will be open anyway to the cemetery. That's the route they go.
Okay.
From the cemetery to the bridge should be, but in case it's not gonna affect the
Okay.
parade. We're looking for them to be done a week or two ahead.
Good.
It's looking good.
Oh, yeah. All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Opposed? Carried. 8.0 Public Works, none. 9.0 Finance. 9.1 Discussion and possible action approving resolution to fix date for a public hearing on proposal to enter into general obligation fire truck acquisition loan agreement and to borrow money thereunder in principal amount to exceed $175,000.
Let Tammy take that one because she's the one that's been working on it.
I was gonna go over this with the members that are on the fire service board. We did receive a joint proposal from the three banks with, Citizens taking the lead. The loan amount will be $171,400. We looked at, after the fire service board meeting, we were given a direction to look at a 5 or a 7 year, loan, and the interest rates they came back with was 3% at 5 years and 3.15% at 7 years, which is very comparable, actually better than the interest rates that they were looking at through the leasing company. So they're a little bit lower. And the direction that the fire service board gave us was, once we got this, to look at flexibility and how that would affect the equipment fund balance, with them continuing to put in $30,000 a year jointly into that fund. And there's the 5 years. At the end of the 5 years, it would take the truck fund balance down to $45,000. And at the end of the 7 years, it would take it, you would have $99,666. The 5 year interest amount would be $13,729. The 7 years would be $19,814 in interest. The benefit of doing the 7 years, as I indicated, is that they do have the option to pay that off without any penalty earlier than the 7 years. So it gives them flexibility. The fire service board indicated that they were looking at potentially 10 years out for their next equipment replacement, truck equipment. Is that correct, Rich?
Yes.
Okay, Cody?
Yeah.
So, this is just to set the public hearing, and then I will give John Danos one of these projections, and I'm got it in from Tim Shea, the fire chief. 7 years is probably the one that they're looking at most reasonably, but
Well,
those,
it would definitely help them in that 10-year frame, then they'll have enough build up, hopefully, for that next truck.
yeah. And that's without any other, ancillary money, as the 2080 agreement states. If there's cash balance at the end of their year, that they didn't use, they were under in their expenditures, then that will also go into the truck equipment fund. So it could potentially have more growth, more balance than that.
Which also then leads to the fact that if they can pay it off faster without any penalty, it just gives them a lot more flexibility this way.
I like
So I will forward that on to John Danos, so he can put that in that resolution for that public hearing.
Move to set the public hearing for September 25th, 6 PM, City Council Chamber.
I'll second that.
First by Bill, second by Rich for the public hearing. And that's a roll vote.
John,
Yes.
Rod,
Yes.
Cody,
Yes.
Betty,
yes.
Rich,
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
10.0 City Administrators Report.
Okay, a couple things. both interested parties that have shown interest in acquiring the old hospital from the city have both now toured with guidance from the city, the old hospital. And so therefore, at the next council meeting, you will see a resolution to set a date for public hearing and sale. And both have received notification that they will need to put together a pro forma of sorts, stating how they will address rehabbing it. And if I can pull from memory past discussions, we don't want to be sitting there with the building a year from now, 2 years from now, in the same condition it is now. We want to see action, and we want to see it on the tax rolls. And so that will be part of the discussion, if you will. I think we will also need to set a minimum that does not need to be made necessarily public, but what you will accept. And there may need to be a short session deciding that. At the same time, you decide on what you're going to set the public hearing. I propose that the public hearing be set for October 9th. That's a ways out, but it still gives plenty of notice if there's any other parties interested to make contact with us. The city's aim is to get it sold, get it rehabbed or whatever on the tax rolls. However, I do need to bring up that the county has now let it be known to me that they are interested in a small piece of the ground to extend their current garage on their property to accommodate more vehicles, which would not involve the buildings, whether or not that would be receptive to the two potential bidders. I haven't discussed that with them because it just came to light. And so that'll all be part of discussion up and coming. Also, I remind you again that October 21st will be the citywide cleanup day, and will be held down at the parking area at the baseball field across from the football field, and it will be from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Found over the last couple of times we've done this, really tapers off to next to nothing in the latter part of the afternoon. This will allow them to get it cleaned up and back to its normal state, so that it's not an eyesore or anything for the rest of the weekend. That's all I have.
11.0 Mayor and Council reports.
I have my meetings, but I don't have anything to report on.
12.0 Public with business with the council on items not on the agenda. 13.0 adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
First by Rod,
Second.
second by Bill. All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Carried.
It's time to go.
How are you? You still doing the same tasks?
Oh, yeah.
Whatever they